Originally from the original Victorian town of Shepparton, Leigh Egan was known around the track as the master of BMX. As soon as the Shepparton BMX Club formed in 1981, Leigh was there, winning. A towering figure, there was no mistaking Leigh Egan, on or off the track. There must have been something in the Goulburn River water in the early 80s, as Shepparton produced champion after champion BMXer, none of course bigger than Leigh Egan. By 1983 he began taking out Victorian state titles, but by 1984 things changed big time. It was in Japan at the IBMX World Championships that Leigh would win not one but 2 world titles, winning both the 17 class as well as the open men's class, effectively making him Australia's first ever elite men's world champion. These wins, along with the major sponsorship ride from GT Bicycles, kick-started a winning streak like no other. The master seemed unbeatable. He would dominate the Australian BMX scene, becoming the first to officially win 3 Australian Open men's titles in a row. Winning in 1985 in Launceston, again the following year in Adelaide, and yet again in Canberra in 1987. He was regarded by many of his competitors as the toughest in a generation. Amazing horsepower and straight line speed, it wasn't until years later that many discovered the reason behind his success. Training, and even more hard training. He put into practice workouts that specifically promoted the essential muscles of BMX racing. Gate starts and sprints by the thousands meant that the master was in a class of his own. A freak accident on the track that left part of his fingers severed put Leigh out of the sport for a lengthy period, and eventually he made the decision to retire in 1989. 4 years later, he was inducted into the Victorian BMX Hall of Fame, and he would continue on as a champion cyclist and run his own successful business, Leigh Egan Cycles. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the master of BMX and Australian BMX Hall of Famer, Leigh Egan.
All right, I'm not even going to try and be funny, all right? But I did, when I walked in tonight, had a bit of a look around, went from one end of the room to the other, and I'm the best looking thing here. We're laughing at it. No, all good. First of all, I'd really like to congratulate Cam, Mitchell and Craig and everybody for turning up tonight. This is really mind-blowing, especially from the guys that are back from back in the day, the early days. To catch up with some of the people that I haven't seen for nearly 30 years, and basically live with week in, week out for 20 odd years. It's just been amazing, and yeah, I just can't wait to get around and talk to everyone. So I'm not going to stay up here too long. First of all, I'd like to thank the sport of BMX and the Hall of Fame for this honour. I'd also like to acknowledge those people who were there in those important days and the early days of BMX and who are no longer with us. To the athletes and the officials, I will be eternally grateful for your friendship. And to the people that took me into their homes when I was away from home, thank you also. So who would have thought that when I ventured out to a newly made track in 1980 Shepparton, of the journey that I was about to embark on. And the country boy that turned up to the Laylaw Park to be confronted by a 14-year-old Dino, who also looked 23. And a Jamie Hales on fire, and a Mick Wilshire, and those guys there. And to sit next to them in staging, hoping that they wouldn't catch me staring. or hoping I didn't have to race them in the first heat. To my sponsors back in the day, and without those sponsors, it would have been nearly impossible to do the travelling and the racing that we did. Grey Cross Industries was my first sponsor for Cross Rider, and then I went on to GT BMX, and later on in my career, Cassip Racing. Thank you all for your support. To Brian Pearce, your friendship and support will never be forgotten, and neither will your midnight driving sessions to Adelaide. I think we've got some sort of record from Brisbane to Adelaide, haven't we?
Yeah, we have somewhere, mate.
If my mum had known what you were doing, mate. To my mum and dad, thank you for everything. What an absolutely amazing ride we had. Even when I had to drag you, Dad, out of the bar with John Cooper to watch us race, but John had one running in the second at Flemington. I'd just like to touch on a phone call that I had 3 or 4 years after I retired from a gentleman living in Adelaide. And the phone call was regarding a young fellow that used to follow me every time I'd race in Adelaide. His sister raced and his family come and watch me race. Anyway, the phone call was to let me know that this young fellow had passed away. And as sad as it was, he also wanted to let me know that his sister had been asked to go inside the house as they went to the viewing and pick out 2 items to be placed into the coffin with the young fella. One of them was his hockey stick, the other was a signed Leigh Egan number plate.
Wow.
So the reason I bring that up is we don't realise the effect that we have on people when we're at a level. Even all those years after I'd finished, that number plate went into that coffin with that young boy. So I just want to say to the current crop of riders and superstars that are racing today, next time you're up on the line, take it in. You know, look around. Look at the faces, the colours, and all the people that make it what it is. I was once where you are, and it's later than you think. This sport has given me and others so many fantastic and not so fantastic times and memories. I'm extremely lucky to have a wonderful wife and 4 beautiful children. But life can be tough, and it's in those tough times that I think of you all and the times that we all shared. I sometimes sit with my parents when I go and see them and reminisce about the old times and the people that we met, and we wonder what they're doing now and if they ever think of us. And I hope that somewhere along the way that I had something to do with where BMX is today. Thank you.